little bit more? We'll tilt it up. Go a little further back. Tilt it more. You're caught. Tilt it. A little more. Keep going in. A little more. Right there. Drop it or tilt it down. Thank you. So here's what I'm thinking. So I need a little help and maybe a little bit of advice about this fine hot rod. So this is a Sebring kit car. Obviously, I got it fairly well priced earlier in this year in the summertime. $3,000, $3,500 after I paid the auction fees. So it is a Sebring MX, as it turns out, which is kind of a rip-off fiberglass kit of a Austin Healey 3000. So it's kind of like a Cobra kind of kit car or something along those lines. Now, typically they're kind of a roadster looking thing. They actually have windows and they have a little roof. A lot of people put small block Chevys in them, or small block Ford is very common, and they use a lot of Mustang 2 kind of Pinto-y type suspension, and they're kind of like a lesser version of a Cobra. They are slightly bigger. They're about 4.5 or 5 inches more wheelbase. I believe they're a little bit wider, so for us larger individuals, we might fit this a little better. Now here's my problem, which is quite the problem to have. I already have a Cobra kit car, which I never drive. But I really don't have another use for, and it's red, like it's the exact same thing. I have no use for the exact same car. So I'm thinking I want to build a Hot Wheels-esque automobile, is my thought. Now, I mean, I can be convinced otherwise. I don't know if there's any other cool ways. Now, I do like the early kind of Austin-y looking things. The problem is this is more of a kind of later model, so it's got the flared fenders front and back. So I just kind of put this motor in here. Obviously, it's sitting way too high. It's on a stand. It wouldn't look quite like this. Just as a bit of a to get the brain flowing. Now, there's a car out there when I was looking around. Everybody has turned these into your classic British roadster, like an MG or whatever it may be, which I don't have the leather hat or the scarf or the goggles, so it's just not really for me. There's a guy out there many years ago. It's the Ida Hemi Healey. I'll put a little picture up or something like that. And that thing talks to me. Now it's got supercharged Hemi, radius wheel wells to the moon, giant tires, the whole deal. It's clearly more race car than street car. What I'd like to do, build a Hot Wheels-esque, not a parade car, but like an exhibition kind of hot rod, and go from there is my direction I think I'm heading. Now, this is a junk 454. Well, it's not junk, it just needs a few parts. That was originally in a 66 Biscayne, and it has had a bent connecting rod. There are currently no connecting rods in it. But this car came with the old instruction manual, and the gentleman who ordered this in 1990 decided he wanted to have it with a small block Chevy. So fortunately, small block Chevy and big block Chevy are the same mounts. So it has all the stuff to put a small block turbo 350 in it. So I think we're going to try putting this big block in it with a turbo 350, which I think I have one over there. I got a few spares. Put that together, and we'll see how it's all going to fit, maybe. See where the tunnel ram is, all that. I want it to be all hanging out of the hood, ridiculous looking. Now, this thing has 2x3 frame rails, rectangle tube, which is, I believe, the same thing my Cobra has. So it's decently stout. Might need a little bit of strengthening up in the front, but we could kind of manage that. It's pretty well all there. The problem with this hot rod, so it was a, I forget the name of the company, Classic Roadsters maybe, or something like that. And they went out of business. And when they were going out of business was when this kit was being bought, and a few things ended up not being shipped with it, and you can't get parts from a company that doesn't exist anymore. And that was way back when the guy got it. So unfortunately, he never got around to building it. Life went on, health happened, and here we are. It ended up at an auction sale. So there's a few things it is missing that I have to get. The whole rear suspension is not there whatsoever. Now, the front end, this is where I need your guys' help, so I'm ready. The front end is already ready to go with all the mounts for Mustang 2 Pinto kind of suspension. It did come with, it's off camera, but 2 sets of front end stuff ready to bolt on. When I say ready to bolt on, I mean junk from 1990. But have all the stuff to kind of do that. We do have to make it a roller. Now, I was looking online, you can get tubular control arms, Mustang 2 stuff, extremely cheap. I mean, most common add-on suspension to any sort of street rod, hot rod. And in my mind, you know, it's got a giant honking motor, but picture this as like a Model A. I mean, a Model A is just a couple of frame rails. You'll have people put a Mustang 2 with a front end with a rack, rack and pinion, which this also has. It's got power and a manual rack that came with it. So manual rack and steering, rack and pinion steering, super easy to put on. That doesn't seem crazy to me whatsoever. Probably the way to go. I did have the thoughts of doing a straight axle, a narrow one, real nose high stance, but I don't know if that's the way I want to go or not. Versus we go with some, whether you stock stuff or tubular control arms, you can then get different springs, coilovers, whatever it may be, to kind of handle the weight. And relatively cheap, I gotta say. Like, there was some cheap knockoff control arms, the same stuff I got from the Tri-5, like $250, which is nothing. So there's that. We have to probably upgrade to 5-lug. Everything is 4-lug junk, which is kind of boring. So that's the front end. I think we can tie that together pretty easily. I think there's a fair bit of room under there for exhaust, and we have to do some funny things with the steering, but we should be able to figure it out. The floor in the tunnel is all steel, so there might be a little trickery with the transmission and all that, but realistically, it's meant to have a small block Chevy in it and some sort of block hugger headers. It also, actually, there's room under here. It's meant to have like a full heating HVAC system and all that sort of stuff, which we probably won't do. We'll put a fan, maybe a defrost or something like that, because we have to have that to be on the road here. But pretty minimal things. Maybe I shouldn't be touching this. Fly off on the highway. So that's that. I mean, we've got steering wheel, or the windshield, sorry. There's no column, there's no wheel. There's seats, there's some interior. Very, very basic stuff, but we can make all that kind of work. I mean, it's street roddy stuff. You can go up Speedway and order whatever the hell you want. From a rear suspension standpoint, It has a Ford 8-inch, which I get. We're not working with the heaviest duty stuff, but we're working with what we have. So it came with a small block Chevy, it came with a turbo 350, and it came with an 8-inch with a center section, axles, everything kind of there. Needs to be taken apart, new bearings, new all that sort of stuff. But enough to kind of get in there, and I believe this is where my knowledge is very minuscule. The rear end, where the frame is, it has tabs, and it looks like it's welded for a triangulated 4-link from, I guess, like Mustang 2, maybe even early, like a 5-liter Fox body style, Pinto, Granada, Maverick. It has all sorts of stuff in this book, which I have to do a bunch more research, but I thought, why do the research when I can just ask the internet and you guys will tell me? Which, if that's the case, it's missing the suspension. There's no bars. There's no nothing like there. It does have the bracketry to hold some sort of spring, and it looks like on a Mustang, well, let's just say Mustang, the lower bars are triangulated out. Looks like there's a pocket where the spring would go up, and there's a pocket at the top of the frame, and it looks like it says even Chevette springs or all sorts of different options you can put in there. But I mean, Mustang's supposed to figure it out. And then the upper bars are quite short, mount to the top of, I guess the Ford 8-inch, and then go in kind of right around where the tunnel would be on the inside of the frame. So if that's the case, they sell all sorts of kits to do like the stamped steel junk into tubular or adjustable times, again for a few $100s. So if that's the case, I mean, I think even with shipping, exchange, and all that stuff, I should be able to have the front suspension and the rear suspension kind of here dialed together for like $1,000, which would be pretty nice, and it'll all be new, easy to work with, and I believe it just works. So that's my real issue, is the rear suspension. I don't quite know what direction to go there. I have a lot of Googling and questioning and all that sort of stuff. I've been reading this book, which is hilarious. It's just like a big model. There's so much about wiring on it, because I guess when this was built, they didn't have those universal wiring harnesses, so you had to make your own. So it should be pretty simple. We have headlights, we have taillights, we have the basics of the interior. We have a lot of stuff that should go together. It's got this kind of red gel coat or whatever it is paint on it, which is in decent shape, so I think it's going to stay just like that. We're gonna start with a painted car. What a situation to be in. I do have, like I said, turbo 350s. I also have a 4-speed Saginaw transmission, which is kind of junk. I don't have a bell housing, so I can maybe put that together. That would alleviate a lot of issues in the tunnel. Make a short little drive shaft and go to the rear end. But I think the first thing I'm going to do, while I'm waiting on you guys to educate me in the comment section, I think I'm going to go ahead and take apart the existing front suspension I have, just put it together onto this thing. I got to find some sort of wheels. 4-lug Ford wheels. I don't have anything like that. We may be drilling or torching out some Chevy wheels just so some will fit on there. And then the rear end, I'm thinking I'll kind of place it where I want. I got to put the axles in. We got to put the center section. We got a lot of stuff like that to do. And maybe just weld some, I got some leftover like 2x2 or angle or something like that, and just weld it solid where I want it and kind of go from there. Get the motor bolted in, get the transmission, just let it kind of talk to me a little bit, see where we're going to go, and then decide if that's the direction I want to take it, or if I want something that can kind of be putskied around in. Now again, it's not a real car. It's a kit car. It's a fiberglass kit. The value, I mean, when it was brand new in 1990, it was 10 grand. And the looking around I've been doing, the value has not followed suit like a Cobra. I mean, you can probably buy these things for $15,000, $16,000 as a small block Chevy, small block Ford, runner, driver, plain Jane car. Nothing serious. So we're into this thing for $3,000, maybe $4,000 by the time we have all the stuff on it. A bunch of junkyard parts I have laying around. Let's make something ridiculous and kind of go from there. The only thing I really want to do that couldn't be undid, I do want to radius the wheel wells. Again, like that picture of the early one. But if I'm careful and I kind of radius and cut it out, I should be able to maybe just kind of keep that piece and can graft it in later on when I decide I don't like it. But that's kind of the plan. I think it should be a fun little project. I got to go through again. There's so many boxes of stuff with this. It's unbelievable. So I got a pile of reading to do, which I'm not much of a reader. I'm more of just a hack and weld it together. Well, it's hard to weld fiberglass. So this is my dream. This is what I think we're going to be working on throughout the winter for a few months. Make a little exhibition kind of hot rod. I don't know what we're going to do for exhaust. If we should do, fender wells and just come right out the side, or try and run it full length, or side pipes. I don't know. People do all sorts of fun things with the windshield. You can kind of tilt it back. From the side, it has a real Cobra-esque look to it. So we can kind of copy that a little. These things did have a roof on it, or you could have got a roof. Sorry, this one doesn't have any of the structure. It has the canvas, but no mechanism. So that's what was missing. It was missing all the rear suspension stuff, which was a bummer. It was missing the mechanical, all the structure to the roof, and a few other little things, but pretty minor. And honestly, the fact that it kind of kept together for 30-some years before I got it and almost lost the whole thing on the road is pretty amazing. And then, this thing we're going to be basic as it can be. Headlights, turn signals, some sort of race steering column, a seat in it, and it'll putski, around and show it off at car shows, maybe take it to some events, paint it up like a gasser with our name on it and stuff. Really, it's going to be a Hot Wheels full-size model. That's my thought with it. Now, before I start giving her on this thing, let me know what you guys think. If you have any other ideas, I'm open to anything. I definitely am thinking more radical, so if you want to tell me, put some sort of straight six or a Subaru this, or I'm not into any of that junk. I want it to be standing out when someone walks up and go, what is this? That's what I want. And this is what we're working with. This is what we have. So net cost $0 to have this ridiculous setup on here. It won't be a daily driver. It'll probably sit around most of the time in the snow and rain. But in the summertime, it'll sure look cool on the back of a trailer, or I'll tow bar it with something like that. How hilarious would that be, seeing this thing tow barred by a 56 Chevy wagon down to Power Tour in the summertime? All right, that's where we'll leave it. So let me know what you think. Comment below. I'm already selling myself, so it's going to be hard to convince me to do anything other with it. Subscribe to the channel. Let me know. And, well, I'm going to get started working on this thing right away. I should get my Sawzall. We'll just start radiusing the wheel wells first.